Hello everyone, my name is Patrick Wiercioch, and I get the privilege of speaking to you all this week on the topic of perseverance. I was very honored when my name first came up as a candidate to speak on this topic. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a little bit about my hockey career, my journey, and background with you all this evening. Since this is a recording, there won't be the opportunity for a Q&A like the presentations that have been in the past. However, I'm hopeful that we can coordinate something with Scott Stevens. Should there be questions that come in after this presentation, that they can come my way, and I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can. As most of you are probably concluding your hockey seasons, take a moment just to read that definition under the title and think what perseverance means to you as you're concluding and wrapping up your seasons this year. Moments that you've had to deal with, different things that you weren't ready for, prepared for, and I hope that this presentation and getting to hear from me will ultimately just help you aspire to become a better version of yourself and to get to ultimately where you want to go. So without further delay, let's start right in. Let me start off by giving you a little background about myself. When you get a chance to do these sort of talks, it's important to be true to who you are. I encourage all of you to not hide behind that, to use your platforms for authenticity. So for me, that means sharing that I'm a believer in Christ. That's my purpose and passion, along with being a father to 4 wonderful kids that are very busy. They keep me on my toes, but they also energize me in that same way. A lot of the list of accomplishments that I've been able to achieve really are childhood dreams of mine. One was to play in the National Hockey League. Another was to play for Team Canada, which I got passed over twice at the World Junior rank level. So a dream that I thought was dead for a lot of years until I got a chance in 2015 to don the Maple Leaf at the World Championships, capture gold with that particular group of guys. On 2 other occasions, I got a chance to wear the Maple Leaf at the Spengler Cup tournament in Davos. My first year experiencing defeat, following it up the second year with the championship. My first year pro, believe it or not, was kind of naive to what a pro schedule, what that actually meant in terms of the amount of games, practices, the length of season, and all that. But it did wind up with a Calder Cup championship with another tremendous group of teammates. My years prior to that, I attended the University of Denver. Both those were highly ranked teams. We didn't quite get to where we wanted to get to both those years as a team, but individually was able to become an All-American, an academic All-American, and my freshman year was actually named to the All-Rookie team. My last year of pro hockey was in the Allsvenskan League in Sweden, where we captured a championship to promote Timra back up to the SHL. And it's pretty amazing to think back that all those memories and all those moments were part of what I get to say was my career. Let me take it one step back and share my hockey path with you all. I think it's important to share this because I don't think there is necessarily one direct way to get to where you want to go. All these organizations, all these associations played a key part in developing who I am, and I'd be remiss not to mention them all in this presentation. So when I first began playing hockey, it was actually on rollerblades. My first probably exposure to perseverance was trying to convince my dad to let me join organized hockey, so I had to prove that I was willing to skate on rollerblades long enough to have my feet blister, so you can buy me a decent set of rollerblades. From then on, I started my career with the Ridge Meadows Minor Hockey Association. I moved on to the Burnaby Winter Club. Just shortly after that, I was able to play for the North Shore Winter Club for my Pee Wee second year and my first year Bantam. Had a chance with that team to travel all the way to the Quebec Pee Wee International Tournament and actually win that tournament. It's one of the fun things I remember from my minor hockey days. To this day, it's actually really neat to know that tournament's still going on and it still plays an important role at the Pee Wee level. So my Bantam draft year, which most of you would recognize as your second year Bantam, in the Western League at least, I moved back to the Ridge Meadows Minor Hockey Association. challenging time for me to switch from an organization like the North Shore Winter Club back into Ridge Meadows minor hockey for such a pivotal year in the hockey ranks and the hockey circles. So had to overcome a little bit of anxiousness, obviously, as you're all dealing with that yourselves, not knowing and wanting to control the outcome at the end of the year, but still having to go through the year itself and let itself play out. So the year after that, actually, the junior rules changed for me, and they were no longer allowing 15-year-olds to card with the junior B team. So in BC, at least, they created a zone midget league. So no 15-year-olds were allowed to play junior hockey. Instead, they were required to play at least 1 year of zone midget before they could move on as a 16-year-old. So navigating that too, it seems, you're unaware of it at the time. Maybe some of you are right now, knowing that the hockey landscape kind of changes back and forth. It's really out of your control, but it's kind of always existed. So I got a chance to play for the Northeast Chiefs, which was a zone team out of BC that combined different territories together to form a region that tried to bring up the level of midget hockey in BC at the time. After that, I played for the Burnaby Express in the BCHL, and then moved to the United States Hockey League to try and earn a scholarship with the Omaha Lancers. We ended up having a great team there that year that won a Clark Cup, and then originally committed to the University of Wisconsin. A little bit about that story. A lot of people don't know it, but David Carl, who's now the head coach of the DU program, he just won with the World Junior Team this past year, coaching the United States World Junior Team. He was a highly touted prospect and was unable to complete the medical combine at the NHL for that draft year. He was forced to quit hockey, never play again. So his scholarship and opportunity became available to join the University of Denver that year. I was fully committed to going to the University of Wisconsin at that time. However, certain factors kind of played a role into guys not leaving school early and guys not signing turn pro, not being able to join Wisconsin as a true freshman. I made the decision to ultimately decommit and join the University of Denver on a full ride scholarship there, and begin my collegiate career as a true freshman. So who knows what would have worked out if had I waited, had I played another year of junior hockey, but as best laid plans, they always go to waste, they say. So I turned pro after my sophomore year, like I mentioned. I had a chance to represent the Binghamton Senators, the Ottawa Senators organizations, the Colorado Avalanche, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Utica Comets. The Dynamo Minsk was quite an experience that resonates a little differently right now, than was able to continue after having my daughter, my third child, with the Bolzano Foxes in the Austrian League. And like I mentioned, I finished my career with Timur IK in the Swedish League in the Allsvenskan. Like I said, I had two chances to represent my country, both of them coming much later in my career. Never had a chance to actually don the sweater for any of the regional programs. Was cut twice from the World Junior teams, but ended up having a chance in 2015 to finally don the Maple Leaf, and then twice in Davos in Switzerland. Currently, I get a chance to work with a lot of brilliant minds in Hockey Canada with the Gold Medal Pathway program, shared my experience as a mentor and coaches in some of the ways that we can all kind of have a dialect between and brainstorm ideas on how to coach youth as best as we can in terms of developing potential members of the Hockey Canada branch, ultimately at the World Junior level and beyond. Have the privilege of assistant coaching a couple of years, currently with the U18 preps at the academy level, last year with the U15 preps, and getting a chance to see the differences in just age groups, what midget hockey and what I remember and what it is now, and how much that hockey landscape has changed. Some of my goals for this presentation are to establish the truth about perseverance. I think the more we hear about them, the more we can actually let them resonate with us, the more we can understand them, the less likely we are to be surprised by them. Some of the ways we can all be persistent, some of the methods we can all use in order to deal with some of the challenges that sports ultimately throw your way. And then lastly, I'd love to connect some of the people and the individuals that I feel do a really good job sharing their own ways of teaching to deal with adversity. And some of these individuals you all know. I'll have some video so you can hear them speak better than myself, but they all have some common ideologies, some successful mentalities that have allowed them to achieve probably the highest ranks in their particular fields, and I think we can all draw from that as well. In those moments, I'll also share some of my experiences throughout my career where I felt like the struggles were very hard, very real, in ways that I was able to deal with them on a personal level. Now, you've heard me say this word a few times already, and that's adversity. So in sports, adversity is really what makes or breaks you. And when I was trying to define adversity, I really kind of broke it into three categories that I felt was most present in my career. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones, subcategories of these, but most of them traditionally fell under these three kind of titles. The first being injury. I think as all athletes, I think we know that at some point we will get injured. I think we are pushing our bodies to the absolute limit, the absolute max, trying to gain any sort of edge, trying to achieve new levels that we hadn't achieved the day prior. So with that, you're pushing your body to a level that is straining, and hockey, especially being a contact sport, even as best as you can try and prepare and have great habits in warm-up, some of those injuries still occur. One of the funniest injuries I ever had in my career was my first ever playoff game in the National Hockey League. I was so amped up and so excited. Went through my warm-up like I normally would have. Got the tap to go out there for my first shift. I think I was about 15 strides into the ice, and I'm pretty sure I tweaked something or pulled a hamstring or something like that just because of the excitement. Ended up skating back to the bench and telling the coach that was it for me. Quite the playoff debut, I guess, but they're not always there. Like you'd think. It's not always the big hit. It's sometimes something that is quite small that really sets you back. Wondering you waited this long to play in the playoffs, and that was it. And then your teammates are going out there and playing one of the most exciting games you got that you were wishing you were a part of. So injuries are definitely something that aren't new to athletes. Everyone deals with them in a different way, but understanding that they're also one of the key reasons why they set athletes back the furthest is something that we definitely need to take ownership over. And I think it's important to know one of the most difficult things about dealing through injuries is it really isolates you away from that team dynamic. So things that you can do to prevent that, things that you can do to stay involved in that daily routine that keeps you motivated and driven is probably one of the best ways you can kind of deal with that type of adversity. The second one I'll touch on in a few slides is situational. It's being in a moment, being in a certain situation that doesn't quite follow the trajectory you feel like you should be on. One of the biggest reasons I share my whole hockey path is that whole cycle, and a different presentation that I usually do is to map out my whole career right back from when I put those rollerblades on and kind of graph it up and down and levels of highs, levels of lows over those years, and just knowing that trajectory isn't always straight up, and often it falls far below where you think it'll ever fall before you can actually push through and get to where you want to go. So those situations I'll touch on in a few slides. One of the best to ever kind of give advice on it, I think, was Tom Brady, and he'll kind of share how he went through his days at Michigan to overcome being in a position he didn't want to be in. The last factor that I could really think of, unfortunately, are external things that are really out of your control. Some of you are dealing with areas that are far more important than hockey right now, and I wish that we could all be a little bit more courageous and speak up on those issues, on those topics. I hope we're advancing the game. Hope we're advancing each other, building each other up in support for teammates and individuals that might be dealing with factors that fall under this category in particular. I would really recommend YouTubing one of the presenters that I had the privilege of getting a chance to hear speak live, in Inky Johnson, and him sharing his story and all the external factors he had to overcome in order to even just play college. It's really humbling to hear an individual like that speak, and to continue to speak to this day, and honestly inspire thousands of athletes with his words. So if you're dealing with those external, I'm hoping that this presentation will support you as well, but I'll touch on that kind of in a few slides as well. Now we're going to watch a clip of Nick Saban giving almost a pre-perseverance checklist. He was asked a question, what does it take to be successful? And ultimately he gives this list of things that you need to do in order to even have the chance and the opportunity to face adversity. I think it's a great listen. It's a great message to know if you're stumbling on where to even begin before you reach the adverse moments, before you reach the things that are really there to push you down, to keep you down. What's the best way to prepare for that? His checklist is a great way to center yourself and focus yourself in order to give yourself the best chance at overcoming obstacles when they do come your way.
What advice would you give me, or what advice would you give to a young athlete like me?
Well, I think for any athlete, it's the same thing. What's your goal? What's your aspiration? What do you want to accomplish and what you want to do? That's the first thing. Second thing is define what it takes to do it. All right, so what do you have to do this? What does it entail for you to be the kind of basketball player that you want to be? All right, then you got to make the decision, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to go work every day and do the things you need to do and take 500 shots a day like Kobe Bryant did or whatever, all right, so that you can be the kind of player that you want to be? And then do you have enough discipline to make yourself do it every day, whether you feel like it or not? How many times do you say, I don't feel like studying? How many times do you say, I don't feel like getting up today? Well, you got to choose to get up. You got to choose to study. You got to choose to go make the shots. You got to choose to work out. So people that can do that, they can reach their full potential. And I think if you choose to make that kind of commitment to it, you can do the same thing. But it's not going to just come to you. It's not going to come easy. And you're going to have to probably overcome a lot of adversity to be able to persevere and sustain it to get where you want to go. But are you willing to do that? Do you have a sense of purpose that will allow you to do that?
Nick Saban touches on adversity, and he touches it right at the end of his talk after he gives you all the things that you need to do to prepare for it. He basically states that it's a truth that it'll come. Almost no one's immune to it. He doesn't specify how it'll happen, but he also gives every athlete that willingness, which is a choice, in order to want to do it. And that's something that we need to really understand, that it is a choice. It is your choice to become elite. It is your choice to try and separate yourselves from your peers. And no one should be forcing you to do it. It should be a passion and a purpose that drives you, because without that, you're ultimately going to be left standing on something that's not very stable. In my own career, my second year in the American Hockey League, I actually took a puck to the throat, was rushed to emergency in Binghamton, New York, woke up 3 days later after an induced coma in Syracuse, New York, and generally questioned whether or not that was the end of my hockey career. At that moment, some of those external factors started to play into my perseverance moments, and I started wondering whether or not I'd be able to talk again. I wondered whether or not I'd be able to breathe normally again. I kind of wondered, was this actually it for my career? And then after a few weeks, getting a chance to reset and refocus, trying to get back to some of the things that I touched on trying to get back into an environment that I felt familiar with in terms of training, in terms of just being around a locker room, led me to take one step and believe like my goal should change to just play one game. And after that, I really kind of rekindled that desire as a child to make an NHL roster and to stick, because at that point I believe I'd only played about 8 NHL games. So I kept propelling myself, but without that passion and purpose, looking back, it would have been really difficult to do so if that's not something I was truly invested in and something that I truly wanted for myself. So in order to be persistent, develop some incredible habits. You want one of the highest compliments anyone can ever pay about you as an individual is that you're the hardest working at any given time under any given circumstance, especially in your given group. So that's all something that you can choose to give everything you have on every given day, regardless of whether you're experiencing highs and lows in a season, successes, defeats in schedule, little things like travel, energy levels, all those things. You want the compliment to be paid about you to be that you're the hardest working individual in that group, and hopefully you're surrounding yourself with a lot of individuals that are very hardworking as well. So it means a lot more when someone says that about you. So in order to do that, you got to have incredible self-awareness. At the very start, it starts off with a lot of little conscious daily choices, decisions that you're making to sacrifice and learn discipline. Some of them can be your diet, some of them can be your nutrition, some of them can be your sleep patterns, others can be little steps that you can take to study your craft, but all of it is essentially trying to make you a better version of yourself. As athletes, we all want to be elite. We want to rise to the top of that pyramid. This next video we're going to watch kind of asks the question if elite is exclusive or is it for everyone. One of the truths is that it is for everyone, but unfortunately we know that not everyone is going to be willing to do it. So that is the only thing that makes it exclusive. So let's have a listen on it.
The difference between elite and everybody else is from the neck up. And I can tell you that if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to be uncomfortable, if you're willing to embrace adversity, embrace the challenges, elite is available. It's available. Is it exclusive? Yes, because everybody isn't willing to do it. But if you're willing to take on the challenge, accept the stress, accept the adversity, look at adversity and challenges in a new light, you are more than capable of being elite.
Now, that particular coach is actually telling young athletes to embrace the challenge, to embrace adversity. That quote on the screen, that pain often leaves you when you've learned from it. If you substitute that word pain with adversity, it takes on a whole new meaning, because then you understand that there's a lesson in adversity. It's part of the process. It's part of the creative process into becoming elite, into becoming someone that is unlike anyone else. So if you're constantly trying to avoid it at all costs, you're actually going to miss out on some of those important lessons that elite individuals all face at one given point or another. Switching over to that second form of adversity that I mentioned that I felt like was important to touch on. This is the Tom Brady clip that I promised about him dealing with a situation he felt like wasn't on his particular trajectory, and his advice to athletes and individuals on how he overcame it. The advice that was given to him by actually one of his mentors and one of his coaches.
I would complain all the time that the guys ahead of me were getting more opportunity than I was. There was a certain amount of repetitions in practice. The starter would get 20, the backup would get 10, and I would get 2. And I'd go in and I'd say, well, how can I ever get better? All these guys get all the reps and I only get 2. And he said, just go in there and focus with the 2 that you got and make them as perfect as you possibly can. So I said, okay. So that's what I did. they'd put me in for those two. Man, I'd sprint in there like it was Super Bowl 49. Let's go, boys. Here we go. What play we got? And I did really well with those two because I brought enthusiasm. I brought some energy, and I had a little more confidence in myself. And it went from 2 reps to getting 4 reps because those 2 were pretty good. Then I had 4 good reps. Then I got 10 good reps. And before you knew it, through this new attitude, through this new shift that Greg had said to me, focus on what you can control. Focus on what you're getting, not what anyone else is getting. Whenever you get an opportunity, you take advantage of it. You treat it like it's the Super Bowl. You treat it like it's game day. Go out there and treat practice like no one else does. And I did.
So there you have it. Video evidence that Tom Brady said that he complained. What I actually took away from that video was energy and enthusiasm. That's what he felt like his coach was asking him to bring into a moment of adversity. Maybe that's something that his coach didn't feel like he was reflecting in his day-to-day habits. I'm sure it wasn't for a lack of work ethic or a lack of try or a lack of care. But you got to ask yourself that question of, what is the coach asking of me? And then maybe you need to actually have that conversation with your coach or with whoever's kind of holding you back from where you feel like you need to go. But you got to have self-awareness, be honest with yourself, and that's crucial, into what's the simplest form of what's being asked of you. Are they asking you to change some of your habits? Are they asking you to be on time every day when you have constant of being late for meetings or little things like that? And are you actually going to change and sustain that change long enough where they'll believe that it's stuck for good? So for Tom Brady, it was to bring energy, enthusiasm with whatever he had at that given moment, and from there on, wait for the opportunity and trust that the process was going to work out for him. Now, before we move on to that final category of adversity, I want to share a quick story. And when I read this, it actually reminded me of that particular moment in my career. I used to sometimes run track in the summer to train, and there was always this difficult one that none of us ever wanted to do. It was the 400 meter, which is one of the hardest distances I'm convinced ever to run. Because it's somewhere between a sprint and a distance, and we'd usually have a set number that we were trying to get to. So I think it was either 4, 5, or 6 laps that you had to do under a certain amount of time. And once you got to the end, you can always see your time tail off. And the trainer knew that. So usually by about the 5th or 6th rep, whatever it was that we were required to do that day, he'd always push us to do one extra one and say, just try and beat your time. Just give it your all. And it was funny when you actually knew that was the very final one. There was no more that you had to do. You were always able to at least beat your time before, if not post like your fastest time of the day, just because you knew that the reward was you were done. So if you're willing to do that and you still don't know you're done, imagine the amount of success you can have. When I read this quote that's up on the screen, I really think of success as the ultimate competitor, and it's fun to think of success as that and from that perspective, because it shares so many attributes of a competitor, in that it doesn't care a lot about how sore you are, how much sleep you get. It doesn't care how hard you work. In fact, most times you don't get outworked and you still don't succeed, so it's not fair. Those are just all attributes that your competition really comes into every contact with you with. So if we can kind of shift our mind and our focus on this, for some of you, it might be one of the biggest stepping stones for you to actually overcome some of the adversity you're dealing with right now. Now, that final category of adversity, the external one, is something that I tread cautiously with. So by no means am I an expert in it, and I encourage you all to find expert and professional help on this. Here is a few suggestions, though, that when dealing with all adversity, it's important to surround yourself with the right people. You're definitely not meant to do it alone. In fact, some of your support staff and your inner circle is really what gets you through that final hump of adversity. Engage Use your self-awareness to seek help out in areas that you need it most. But if you're not being honest with yourself and what those areas are, you might miss the opportunities to actually find someone that is in an area and in proximity to you that can actually aid you. The last one is to go for it and attempt it. A lot of us are scared of failing, and it's not necessarily what's holding you back. Actually putting your foot forward and attempting it. Having that preparation is all said and good, but at the end of the day, just attempt it, just go for it, and see where it lies and see what you can fix and tune along the way. That might be a stage of adversity that you're all at. You might have a great plan in place and a good structure and good support, but then you just got to be not scared and not fearful of the outcome, and ultimately just enjoy the process and the journey along the way. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I'm going to leave you with one of those engagement things that I used to always look for, and it's a motivational thing on the late Kobe Bryant and how he dealt with an injury in his career. I wish you all the best, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation on perseverance.
Right after you were injured, you went on Facebook and you posted a lengthy blog.
Yeah.
You know what this is?
Oh, yeah.
You said this.
You gonna read the whole thing?
I'm going to read some of it. This is such BS. All the training and sacrifice just flew out the window with one step that I've done millions of times. The frustration is unbearable. The anger is rage. Why the hell did this happen? Makes no damn sense. Now I'm supposed to come back from this and be the same player or better at 35? How in the world am I supposed to do that? I have no clue. Do I have the consistent will to overcome this thing? Maybe I should break out the rocking chair and reminisce on the career that was. Maybe this is how my book ends.
Yeah.
Maybe Father Time has defeated me. Then again, maybe not. It's 3:30 a.m. My foot feels like dead weight. My head is spinning from the pain meds, and I'm wide awake. Forgive my venting, but what's the purpose of social media if I won't bring it to you real, no image? Feels good to vent, to let it out. To feel as if this is the worst thing ever. Because after all the venting, the real perspective sets in. There are far greater issues and challenges in the world than a torn Achilles. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Find the silver lining and get to work with the same belief, same drive, and same conviction as ever. One day, the beginning of a new career journey will commence. Today is not that day. If you see me in a fight with a bear, pray for the bear. That's Mamba mentality. We don't quit, we don't cower, we don't run, we endure and conquer.